There comes a moment in every human life when the quiet whisper inside becomes too loud to ignore. A moment when the soul stands at a crossroads, staring into the unknown, feeling the pulse of possibility rise like a storm under the skin. And in that moment, whether you recognize it or not, you are standing on sacred ground. Because life doesn't change in years or months or even days. Life changes in a single decision, one choice, one commitment, one declaration that says, I refuse to live small. Every revolution in human history started with a decision like that. Edison decided he would create light, even when the world mocked him as a dreamer. Henry Ford insisted he would build the automobile for the common man, even as the powerful laughed in his face. Andrew Carnegie chose to rise from poverty so deep it crushed most men before they even began. These weren't men of luck or privilege. They were men of decision. They were proof of a law older than any philosophy book, a law Napoleon Hill spent his life teaching anyone courageous enough to listen. Your decisions carve the blueprint of your destiny. But most people never experience the power of that law, not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack resources, but because they hesitate at the edge of their potential. They wait for permission, wait for clarity, wait for the perfect moment that never comes. And while they wait, life moves on without them. Look around you. Every building, every airplane, every bridge, every innovation that shaped the modern world came from one courageous mind making a single decision that defied fear, logic, and convention. But today, right now, the torch is being passed to you. This is your era, your battlefield, your opportunity to decide what story your life will whisper when it's over. Because you are not here to live as a shadow of your potential. Something in you is hungry, restless, burning. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to these words. You wouldn't feel that familiar weight on your chest, that tug of destiny reminding you that you were made for more. And deep down, you already know this. There is a version of you that terrifies your excuses, a version forged in clarity, purpose, discipline, and action, a version that doesn't wait for life to bless them, but creates opportunity with bare hands and unwavering will. That version is not imaginary. It is not distant. It is not a dream. It is simply one decision away. But before you can access that version of yourself, you must confront the invisible battle that silently shapes your life every single day, the battle within your own mind. Your thoughts are the first frontier of transformation. Every belief you hold becomes a lens that either distorts your vision or sharpens it. Every doubt becomes a chain. Every conviction becomes a crown. The world will tell you to think small. Society will tell you to be realistic. Fear will whisper that failure is too painful to risk. But understand this. No one who ever achieved greatness was realistic. No one who rose from nothing did so by thinking in miniature. Every giant of history dared to challenge the limitations placed upon them. Napoleon Hill called it definiteness of purpose, the unwavering, laser-focused, unshakable determination to choose a direction and refuse to bend. When you possess that, the universe itself begins to rearrange around your intention. Doors appear where walls once stood. People arrive who align with your mission. Ideas emerge that you didn't know you were capable of imagining. But it starts with that decision. The moment you say, this is who I am now, this is the life I'm building, this is the standard I rise to. And when you make that decision with full conviction, something changes in your physiology. Your breath deepens, your posture shifts, your eyes sharpen. You feel it, a subtle but unmistakable alchemy. It is the birth of a new identity. Because the greatest secret of achievement is this: your life doesn't transform when conditions change. Your life transforms when you change. Think of the men and women who altered the course of history. They weren't waiting for perfect timing. They weren't seeking validation. They weren't collecting guarantees. They were stepping forward in the dark with nothing but belief as their compass. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination. Steve Jobs was removed from his own company. Oprah was told she didn't belong on television. Lincoln faced defeat after defeat before shaping a nation. What did they all share? Not comfort, not certainty, not flawless execution. They shared the will to decide who they were, regardless of circumstances. And now your moment has arrived. The question is not whether the world is ready for you. The question is whether you are ready to make the decision that changes everything. And to make that decision, you must understand something many people never learn. Your mind is the architect, but your decisions are the builders. Thought without commitment is a daydream. Commitment without belief is torture. But when belief and decision fuse, destiny bends. This is where your transformation begins, by reclaiming your inner authority. Because somewhere along the path of life, society convinces you that everyone else knows better. Teachers, bosses, critics, strangers on the internet. You forget the truth you were born knowing, that you are allowed to choose the trajectory of your own story. But the moment you reclaim your inner authority, the moment you stop outsourcing your vision to the opinions of others, you become dangerous. You become powerful. You become the type of person who shifts the atmosphere of a room without saying a word. Belief is not a soft thing. It is not wishful thinking. It is not a motivational slogan etched on a coffee mug. Belief is a weapon. Belief is infrastructure. Belief is the engine behind every empire ever built. Napoleon Hill said, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But most people hear that and think it's poetry. It's not. It's physics. Thoughts create emotion. Emotion fuels decisions. Decisions create action. Action produces outcomes. Outcomes reinforce beliefs. And that cycle, repeated with intention, recreates your entire identity. This is why a single decision can shatter generational limits. A single decision can rewrite your legacy. A single decision can change the trajectory of your children, your family, your bloodline. Because the moment you decide to rise, you become the first domino, and everything behind you rises with you. But belief alone isn't enough. Many people believe in a better life. Few commit to becoming the version of themselves required to earn it, because transformation demands clarity, and clarity demands courage. Clarity is the removal of noise, mental, emotional, social. It's the elimination of every voice that doesn't align with your purpose. It's distinguishing the desires of your soul from the distractions of your environment. Clarity does not come from thinking harder. Clarity comes from deciding what matters and letting everything else fall away. Look at the lives of the world's most influential figures. They weren't scattered. They weren't pulled in 20 directions. They weren't trying to impress everyone. They were focused, obsessively, unapologetically focused. When Andrew Carnegie was asked why he was able to dominate the steel industry, he replied simply, "I focused on one thing for 20 years. That wasn't luck. That wasn't chance. That was clarity turned into discipline. And this is where most people fall apart. They want a new life, but not new habits. They want transformation, but not discipline. They want success, but not sacrifice. What they fail to see is that discipline is not punishment. It is liberation. Discipline frees you from the chaos of indulgence. It frees you from the weight of indecision. It frees you from the slow death of an unlived life. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. And every step across that bridge is a decision. But let's strip away the romantic language for a moment and speak truth. Discipline is uncomfortable. It hurts. It exposes your weaknesses. It forces you to face the parts of yourself you spent years avoiding. And yet, every dream worth having demands it. Edison worked through 1,000 failed experiments. Ford endured bankruptcy, ridicule, and impossible obstacles. Disney faced rejection so severe it would have broken the average spirit. But they persisted, not out of comfort, but out of conviction. Conviction that their vision was worth the price. conviction that their potential was non-negotiable, conviction that life would not hand them greatness, they would forge it. And now that same conviction is being asked of you, not because your life is undesirable, but because it is incomplete, not because you are unworthy, but because you are unfinished, not because you are behind, but because you are awakening. The person you are becoming is calling to you, not softly, not subtly, but urgently. You feel it in the frustration with your old patterns. You feel it in the restless nights. You feel it in the sense that life is pressing on you from the inside, demanding expansion. That pressure is not anxiety. It is potential trying to break through. It is destiny knocking from within. It is the divine reminder that you were not designed for mediocrity. You were designed for creation, for contribution, for impact, for the full expression of the gifts within you. But to access that version of yourself, you must make a decision that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. You must decide to stop negotiating with your limitations, because limitations are not real. They are learned. Fear is not real. It is conditioned. Self-doubt is not truth. It is inherited noise. And as long as you negotiate with these illusions, they will own you. But the day you decide to rise above them, the day you decide to confront them, challenge them, and walk through them, that is the day your new life begins. And when that day comes, when you finally choose to stop tolerating the weight of your own excuses, your world begins to shift in ways you can feel but can't yet explain. You sense the old version of yourself weakening, losing its grip. The version built from procrastination, fear, and hesitation starts to dissolve. And in the silence beneath all the noise, a new identity begins to form. Identity is the birthplace of destiny. Every action you take flows from the person you believe yourself to be. If you see yourself as average, you will behave like someone destined for mediocrity. If you see yourself as powerful, worthy, and capable, you will act accordingly, even before the evidence appears. This is why the greatest transformations happen quietly, long before the results show. A person doesn't become successful the day the world applauds them. They become successful the day they decide they are the kind of person who deserves success. That decision, internal, uncelebrated, invisible, is the true beginning. Think of Abraham Lincoln writing speeches by candlelight long before the world knew his name. Think of Soichiro Honda building engines in a wooden shed long before Honda became an empire. Think of J.K. Rowling riding in cafes with a baby stroller next to her, long before millions read her words. The world saw the success, but the transformation began when they made decisions that no one witnessed but themselves. And that is the part most people misunderstand. Your new life doesn't begin when others believe in you. It begins when you believe in you, so deeply that doubt no longer negotiates your destiny. Belief is the soil. Decision is the seed. Action is the sunlight. Repetition is the water. Resilience is the root. And greatness is the tree that grows from it all. But let's go deeper, because belief without action is hallucination. Decision without follow-through is fantasy. The world is full of dreamers who never learned the power of consistent execution. Execution is where most ambitions die, not because the dream was impossible, but because the individual thought feeling inspired was enough. Inspiration is the spark, but if you don't use it to light a fire, it disappears as quickly as it came. And so the real test begins with the small, unseen actions, the daily disciplines that shape your character, the moments when the alarm rings and your bed feels like a sanctuary, the moments when your goal feels distant, your energy low, your motivation gone, the moments when quitting masquerades as taking a break. These are the moments that separate the average from the exceptional. Not talent, not opportunity, not luck. Choice. Every day, greatness asks you the same question. Will you choose me today? Henry Ford chose innovation when the world wanted to cling to the horse and carriage. Nelson Mandela chose forgiveness after 27 years behind bars. Serena Williams chose excellence every single morning, long before she chose trophies. You may not face their battles, but the principle remains the same. Your life expands or contracts based on the decisions you make when no one is watching. Understand this deeply. Every habit you keep is a vote for the person you're becoming. Every discipline you practice is an investment into your future self. Every sacrifice you make is a down payment on your destiny. And the beauty of this truth is that no one can stop you from casting those votes except you. But here is where something extraordinary happens. When you commit to consistent action, when you show up day after day, even imperfectly, you begin to tap into an energy far greater than motivation. You begin to tap into momentum. Momentum is the hidden advantage of the great. It makes difficult tasks feel lighter. It makes discipline feel natural. It carries you forward in moments when your motivation falters. Momentum is the reward for consistency. Momentum is proof that the universe responds to sustained effort. Momentum is the force that transforms ordinary humans into unstoppable creators of their fate. But there is another force you must embrace, one that every icon of history mastered: adaptability. The ones who rise are not the ones who avoid failure, but the ones who evolve through it.
Edison didn't survive his 1,000 failed experiments because he enjoyed failing. He survived because he knew every failure contained a fragment of the truth he sought. Every setback brought him closer to the breakthrough. Winners do not avoid the storm. They learn to dance in it. They understand that adversity is not a detour from the path. It is the path. It is the sculptor that shapes your character. It is the forge that strengthens your resolve. It is the classroom where resilience is taught. The world will not respect you because you avoided pain. It will respect you because you endured it, learned from it, and rose stronger. And this is where your decision becomes more than a choice. It becomes a contract, a vow, a declaration that you will not be moved by temporary discomfort, that you will not abandon your destiny at the first sign of difficulty, that you will not run from the challenges designed to elevate you, because when life tests you, and it will, it is not trying to break you, it is trying to reveal you. It is trying to show you the depth of your strength, the power of your mind, the fire within your spirit. It is trying to remind you that you are built for more than survival. You are built for conquest. And as that fire grows within you, something profound begins to change. You stop fearing challenges and start welcoming them. You stop avoiding discomfort and start seeking it because you recognize it as the currency of greatness. You understand that every moment of resistance is an invitation, a doorway into the stronger, wiser, more capable version of yourself. This is where the average fall away. The average person collapses under pressure because they think pressure is a punishment. The extraordinary person rises under pressure because they understand pressure is a privilege. Pressure means you're advancing. Pressure means you're growing. Pressure means you're stepping into territory your old self was never meant to enter. And that's the truth most people never hear. The version of you that is strong, powerful, disciplined, unstoppable, that version will never emerge as long as you cling to comfort. Comfort is the enemy of expansion. Comfort is the graveyard of dreams. Comfort is the silent poison that convinces you to settle for a life far beneath what you're capable of. The world does not reward comfort. It rewards courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision, yes, another decision, to move forward even when fear stands in your path. Fear has escorted every legend in history. Fear walked beside Thomas Edison as he failed time and time again. Fear sat next to Rosa Parks when she refused to give up her seat. Fear whispered in the ear of every entrepreneur who ever risked everything without a guarantee. But courage walked ahead of them. Courage took their hand. Courage reminded them that fear is a compass pointing toward the very thing they were meant to do. And now that same courage is calling you, because greatness doesn't require you to be fearless. It requires you to be willing to step, willing to try, willing to fail, learn, adjust, and continue, willing to carry your vision through storms that would break most people, willing to believe in a future that only exists in your imagination until your discipline makes it real. That willingness sustained over time becomes resilience. And resilience is the superpower of the ones who refuse to accept an ordinary life. Resilience is the quiet, stubborn force within you that whispers, "Try again. You're not done yet." Resilience is the refusal to let temporary setbacks rewrite your destiny. Resilience is the decision, once again, to stand up every single time you fall. When you study the stories of history's greatest achievers, you'll notice a pattern. They all endured suffering. They all endured loss. They all endured ridicule. But they also understood that setbacks are not signals to stop. Setbacks are signals to strengthen. Walt Disney lost everything he built, twice. Colonel Sanders heard no over 1,000 times before anyone tasted his recipe. Sylvester Stallone was rejected so many times that he had to sell his dog just to survive, only to later buy him back once success finally found him. The world sees success, it rarely sees the scars. But the scars are proof of resilience, and resilience is what transforms ordinary people into relentless forces of impact. But there is another dimension to this transformation, one that ties everything together: gratitude. Gratitude is not passive positivity. It is not blind optimism. It is the lens through which you recognize your own blessings and use them as fuel. Gratitude anchors you in the present. It gives you strength on difficult days. It reminds you of everything working in your favor instead of everything standing in your way. A grateful mind is never powerless. A grateful heart is never empty. A grateful spirit cannot be defeated. Gratitude is the mental foundation from which all great achievements grow. It keeps you grounded in humility while ambition stretches you toward new heights. Ambition without gratitude leads to arrogance. Gratitude without ambition leads to stagnation. But gratitude combined with ambition, that is the formula for a life of unstoppable expansion. And when you live in that state, resilient, courageous, disciplined, grateful, you begin to move differently. You begin to see opportunities that others overlook. You begin to listen to intuition that others ignore. You begin to trust possibilities that others dismiss. Your vision sharpens. Your purpose crystallizes. Your energy amplifies. Your life begins to align, not by chance, but by decision. And that brings us to a power that too many underestimate: the power of vision. Vision is the spiritual blueprint of your future. It is the internal movie that plays before your reality catches up. It is the language of your potential calling you forward. Every empire began as a vision in someone's mind. Every invention existed in imagination long before it existed in metal and glass. Every breakthrough was first seen by someone who refused to limit their sight to the world as it was. Vision is the soil from which destiny grows. Without it, you wander. With it, you elevate. But vision alone is not enough. Vision must be amplified by purpose, your why, the fire beneath your ambition. Purpose is what keeps you moving when motivation fades. Purpose is what steadies your hands when doubt shakes you. Purpose is what reminds you that your life is not an accident, but a mission. And when purpose meets decision, your life becomes unstoppable. Purpose gives weight to your steps. Purpose steadies your breath. Purpose transforms ordinary effort into sacred work. Without purpose, discipline feels like torture. With purpose, discipline feels like devotion. With purpose, waking up early isn't a burden, it's a privilege. With purpose, sacrifice isn't painful, it's meaningful. With purpose, setbacks don't break you, they refine you. Purpose is the invisible thread that ties every decision to your destiny. It is the whisper that says, "This matters, keep going." It is the force that turns the impossible into the inevitable. And once you discover your purpose and claim it with conviction, your vision expands in ways that defy logic. You begin to dream not as a spectator, but as a creator. You begin to see your future not as a distant hope, but as a living blueprint etched into your soul. But vision and purpose demand something in return: alignment. Alignment is the courage to remove anything in your life that contradicts the person you are becoming. It is the willingness to say no to distractions, temptations, and patterns that once felt comfortable but no longer serve your evolution. You cannot build a new life with the tools of your old one. You cannot rise while clinging to what drags you down. You cannot claim a higher future while defending lower habits. Alignment requires honesty, brutal, uncompromising honesty, the kind of honesty that makes you confront truths you've avoided for years, the kind of honesty that forces you to see your own role in the life you're trying to escape. But in that honesty, you rediscover your power, because you cannot fix what you refuse to acknowledge. And once you acknowledge it, you can change it. And once you change it, you become unstoppable. Alignment also requires a ruthless evaluation of your environment. Every voice you listen to is either planting seeds or pulling roots. Every person in your circle is either elevating you or diminishing you. Every habit you keep is either sharpening your edge or dulling your potential. Look at the giants of history. None of them were shaped by accident. They curated their environment with intention. Napoleon Hill spent decades studying the world's most successful people and found one truth that echoed through every life he touched. You rise to the level of the standards you enforce, and the standards you enforce are shaped by the people and energy you surround yourself with. You cannot soar while living among those who are chained to their excuses. You cannot think like a creator while drowning in the noise of complainers. You cannot build a life of purpose while absorbing the energy of people who drift through life without direction. This is why alignment often requires separation, not because you are better than others, but because you are becoming different than you once were. Growth demands departure. Elevation demands evolution. Transformation demands a new environment, internal and external. And when you align your thoughts, your habits, your actions, and your associations with the person you want to become, you step into a level of power that most people never taste. Life stops feeling random. Opportunities begin to appear. Synchronicities increase. Ideas emerge. Confidence rises. Momentum explodes. It begins to feel as if the universe is collaborating with you, not because the universe changed, but because you did. And now comes one of the most misunderstood truths of human achievement. Action is the great equalizer. The world does not reward the smartest. It rewards the boldest. It rewards the ones who execute when others hesitate. It rewards those who act with urgency, not timidity. Action is the bridge between intention and impact. Without action, dreams are fantasies. Without action, ideas evaporate. Without action, potential remains dormant. What separates the extraordinary from the average is not talent, it is execution. Execution in the face of fear. Execution in the face of uncertainty. Execution in the absence of motivation. Execution even when no one is watching, applauding, or validating. Action is the only language destiny understands, but action requires energy, and not just physical energy, but emotional and spiritual energy. And the source of that energy is conviction. Conviction is the state where doubt has no permission to speak. Conviction is when your purpose becomes louder than your excuses. Conviction is when you decide that failure is not fatal and quitting is not an option. Conviction turns small steps into leaps. Conviction turns effort into obsession. Conviction turns time into a weapon. And when you act with conviction, you no longer need motivation. You no longer wait for perfect conditions. You no longer negotiate with fear. You simply move, relentlessly, decisively, boldly. Action with conviction is how ordinary people shatter the limits of what once seemed impossible. And as you continue to move, something remarkable happens. Your identity shifts again. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to transform. You start seeing yourself as someone destined to transform. Your mind changes. Your energy changes. Your confidence changes. Your decisions change. And your life, inevitably, undeniably, begins to change with them. Because everything you've been searching for, everything you've been hoping for, everything you've been waiting for has been waiting on one thing, that first decision, that first step, that first declaration of who you are and who you refuse to remain. Because that's where everything changes, at the intersection of who you were and who you decide to become. The old life pulls one way, the new life pulls another, and in that tension, you are given a choice. Return to your comfort or rise into your calling. That crossroads appears in every great story, in every life that became larger than circumstance, in every destiny that outgrew its origin. It appeared when Edison lost everything in a fire, and instead of collapsing, he said, "All our mistakes have been burned up. Thank God we can start anew." It appeared when Oprah was rejected, fired, humiliated, and chose not to quit, but to rebuild herself into a force that shifted nations. It appeared when Michael Jordan was cut from his high school team, and instead of shrinking, he let that moment ignite a fire that never dimmed. The crossroads is not a punishment. It is a summons, a call to evolve, a call to rise, a call to step into the higher dimensions of who you are. But understand this, when you choose your new life, your old one will resist. Your old habits will whisper, "Come back." Your old limitations will say, "You're not ready." Your old fears will insist, "You're not capable." And this is where most people turn back, not because the new life is impossible, but because the old life is familiar. Familiarity is seductive. Familiarity feels safe. Familiarity feels predictable. But familiarity is the enemy of destiny. If you always choose the familiar, you will never taste the extraordinary. If you always choose the predictable, you will never experience the miraculous. If you always choose what feels safe, you will never realize the strength waiting inside your courage. Every breakthrough requires a breaking of patterns, a breaking of cycles, a breaking of beliefs that no longer serve you, a breaking of the identity that was built for survival, not expansion. You are not meant to survive your life. You are meant to shape it. You are not meant to merely exist. You are meant to create. And creation requires an uncomfortable, often painful transformation. Old parts of you must fall away for the new parts to emerge. Old doubts must dissolve for new certainty to rise. Old identities must crumble for new power to be born. This is the metamorphosis of personal evolution, the moment the caterpillar believes it is dying, not knowing it is becoming the butterfly. But unlike nature, your transformation is not automatic. It requires intention. It requires discipline. It requires a choice every single day. Because one decision may spark your transformation, but thousands of decisions sustain it. It is in the hidden hours that destiny is built, the hours where no one sees your effort, the hours where no one applauds your discipline, the hours where no one praises your consistency. When the world is silent, your character speaks, and that character is shaped in the dark long before it shines in the light. This is why winners move differently. They understand that their future is shaped long before it becomes visible. They understand that everything counts, the small choices, the tiny habits, the daily rituals. Success is not one giant leap. It is thousands of invisible steps, steps taken when you are tired, steps taken when you doubt yourself, steps taken when fear tries to convince you to turn back. Every step counts. Every effort compounds. Every decision writes a line in the script of your future. And when you finally arrive at the life you once dreamed of, you realize something powerful. It wasn't the dream that changed you. It was who you became on the journey toward it. But there's another truth, one that very few have the courage to embrace. With every step you take forward, the world around you begins to shift as well. You start to attract different opportunities, different conversations, different people, different levels of possibility. Because you do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. As you elevate your standards, your environment rises to meet you. As you upgrade your mindset, your circumstances begin to align. As your self-image strengthens, life begins responding with experiences that reflect that strength. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is alignment at work. When your inner world changes, your outer world follows, not instantly, but inevitably. And in that inevitability lies your greatest power, the understanding that you are not a victim of life, but a sculptor of it. The moment you truly accept this, your entire orientation toward life shifts. You stop waiting, you stop wishing, you stop hoping that something outside you will change. Instead, you take responsibility, not blame, but responsibility. The kind of responsibility that empowers, not burdens. The kind that liberates you from helplessness and returns you to your throne. Responsibility is not the acceptance of fault. It is the acceptance of power. Power to shape your direction. Power to change your habits. Power to elevate your standards. Power to rewrite your future. And as this power awakens in you, a realization dawns. Your life is not determined by fate. Your life is determined by decisions. And you are one decision away from an entirely new existence. Not someday, not eventually, not when things settle down. Now. Because life does not wait for your convenience. Destiny does not wait for ideal conditions. The future does not wait for you to feel ready. You must decide. You must move. You must rise. One decision, one moment, one declaration that everything changes today.